Dannie.
Hi, I'm Matthew or Mateo.
Hola, mi nombre es Timoteo. I guess to start off, I've been here for almost 20 years now, so this journey has been going on for me for a little while. Immediately before coming here to Costa Rica to start Rancho Mastatal, I was doing a variety of jobs, including a few corporate gigs. I have a degree in agricultural economics, and immediately after college I got a job with Chiquita International, which is a large agribusiness, working as a marketing analyst in the corporate world. After getting a bit disheartened with that world, I escaped to the US Peace Corps, where I lived in South America and Uruguay for a few years, and there was introduced to some of these concepts and ideas that we've been implementing here in Mastatal for the last few decades. But in between my experience in the Peace Corps and coming to Mastatal, I went back into the corporate world and worked for a large exporter of fruits and vegetables. I managed sales in the Latin America region. Became disheartened with that corporate experience too, and in between quitting that job after a few years and coming here, essentially was dabbling in a variety of jobs, making ends meet as we dreamt to start this project here in Mastatal. So a bit of a roller coaster ride between typical, I guess, post-university corporate experiences interwoven with the Peace Corps and delivering pizzas, parking cars, basically doing a bunch of jobs just to make financial ends meet until we came here.
This has been a much shorter journey for me so far. I guess made the transition to this alternative lifestyle this year. Before coming here, I was working in the construction industry, doing project management work for a few years. I studied environmental science in college and struggled to find work. After graduating from college, struggled kind of to get my feet on the ground in general, and I started working in the construction industry via my dad, who worked in the construction industry, and had overall a good experience in the construction world. It was engaging and varied and got to work on a lot of different projects, but could feel that my heart wasn't in it and that I was being called to something else. I kind of feel like I found the first sight of my path in college, learning about the environment and learning about all the problems in the world. And then became really just disheartened and depressed and struggled to find an effective and healthy way to deal with those things. And through the experiences that I had in those construction jobs, I think I just kind of got myself a stronger foundation. And once I had that foundation underneath me, felt stable enough to then begin to listen to my heart again. And that's when I think opened my eyes again to what the possibilities were for myself and for what I could accomplish in this life. And that's when Rancho Mastatal came into my consciousness, and it just all aligned very well what I felt I was lacking and what I suddenly saw was possible. And I think that I knew just from my daily life what I was lacking in how separated and just how non-holistically intertwined all the aspects of my life were, and working kind of a standard job, 9 to 5, usually more like 7 to 7, and just working, and not really for anything meaningful. Eating out a lot and not connected to the food I was eating at all, and sitting at a desk or a computer for way too much time and not using my body, and all these things just felt wrong, even though it was a good life in and of itself. I mean, it was so very lucky compared to so many people, but it just didn't feel right. And so I listened to what the universe was telling me and pointing me in the direction of a different way of living, and found my way here. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
All right. I guess just to echo what both Mateo and Timo have said is, like, I think a lot of people end up in here or in these kind of places starting with this kind of disheartening, which maybe, as Mateo said, leads to getting more in touch with like what's in your heart, as it were, about how you feel you should be living your truest life, I suppose. So what did I used to do? I guess like Mateo, like I went, this was a while ago now, the typical, like, you go to high school and then you go to university, where I studied environmental geography and visual arts, and just knew after that I wanted to travel to see the places and problems I have been learning about. So I guess like I've always since then viewed the world through this kind of social, environmental perspective, which opened my eyes when I went to Asia and other places to, I guess, like all the issues we face, I suppose. But I spent a while, 4 years teaching in Korea, South Korea, and 4 years teaching in Hanoi, Vietnam. And I loved it. I loved a lot of things about my life. I think teaching is exhausting. Teachers are amazing, but it's also incredible to inspire people to want to learn. Though I didn't always feel like I was working in the kind of educational paradigm I wanted to be working in. I like the educational philosophies we have here. It's nice to be somewhere. You agree with that? But yes, I kind of, similarly to what Mateo said, like there's just some disconnect between, like trying to be, as it were, like eco-conscious, or like, falling into this like branding of like, oh, well, I'm doing this and I'm like recycling, I'm doing this, but still just feeling completely disconnected. Just like I just didn't feel right. Just similarly, like through whatever, chance, I was in touch with an old friend who told me about it here, and it just sounded like exactly what I felt I should be doing. So, I guess I think for me it's like been a challenge for a while of just like, sort of feeling pulled towards these typical, ways of maybe it's easier to exist in the world if you kind of doing the typical thing. But accepting in myself that I guess that's not how I want to live, and like really accepting it and going for it. And fear is a challenge, I guess.
I think like the reality, like by far this place has been the most like realistic about sustainable living of anywhere I've ever been. And I went to like a kind of standard American university, and there's all these like green initiatives and things, and at the end of the day you're still like, there's just so much trash, there's so much waste, there's so much fossil fuels being burned and everything, and this place I feel actually is really doing a lot of real work to be sustainable, with the emphasis being on the word work, like that it's actually really challenging to not make waste and to reuse things and to, you know, you don't throw away the plastic bag, but you clean it and reuse it. And then it was like the other day, I was like washing 8 plastic Tupper bags, and I was like, man, it's so annoying. And I was like, but this is what being sustainable actually is. And there's a reason that the world has evolved the way that it has towards convenience, because it's convenient, it's easier. And I think that there's just so much more kind of daily work that goes into being sustainable and being conscious of the way that you live. And that's also, I think, one of the really most rewarding things, especially in the context of a community like this, because when you have people alongside you to do that work with, it becomes fun and it becomes something that you build connection through. And I think it's become really clear to me that the convenience and isolation of like standard, at least American living today, is like definitely goes hand in hand. So while it's a challenge, I also think it's really a gift. And and I think as well, I feel this challenge of like, this is an amazing place. It's almost at times dreamlike, and it feels like I want all of my friends and loved ones to be here with me. And I want like to make a home where everyone that I love can be together and be living this way. And I love a lot of people, and I have many friends. And so to scale up past, the size of the community that we have here, that feels really challenging. And that's something that I'm thinking about into the future as to, how can I get all my friends to like move to where I am, and we can all live together in love and harmony. And, that's the classic, hippie pipe dream. But
can I add something?
Yeah.
Just add on to that, like, just thinking about the idea of sustainability. I think, a challenge is to like just understand like what that means, and like Mateo was saying, like what it means, like hard work. But I think for me it's also been like an understanding, and like learned a lot, like Timo and Robin, in this of like not just being sustainable for our planet, but like if you're going to do that, it has to be sustainable in your life, like financially and energy wise and like socially, and just there's all these things that go into living a sustainable life that really have, it's all connected, but like not so much just thinking about like what's sustainable for the planet, because if it's not sustainable for you, then you're probably not going to do much good for the planet either. So that's been an interesting, I guess, like, challenge or thing to come to understand, I suppose.
There's a lot of challenges, I would say. The ones that first come to mind for me relate to, as an expat, living in a country that wasn't the one of my birth, being far from family and friends, even after all this time, has continued to be a challenge. Not being geographically close to my siblings and my mother and other people that I love dearly that are now so far away. And then kind of in that realm, just being an outsider trying to settle in a community that is in a different culture and country than the one that I grew up in, that again, even after all this time, continues to be a process that I'm going through. That bridge building is a long process. It takes a lot of intentional work and time, and feeling as if I fit into this small rural community that I have decided to call home has come with a lot of difficult emotional hurdles, a lot of time in the community, a lot of energy trying to demonstrate to the people of this community that as an expatriate, as a foreigner. We're here with the best intentions. And so, yeah, some of those challenges come to mind when you ask that question. There are so many challenges to kind of springboard off of what these guys have said. The climate, even though perhaps it was a half joke, is a real challenge when you come from a temperate climate to a tropical one, and the heat and humidity takes your body. For me, I would say years to acclimate to this climate, not weeks or months, but really years until I felt comfortable and could really work hard in this climate without feeling drained. The bugs, especially when you live in open structures, the fact that there are snakes that are very dangerous that we're constantly worried about. I'm the father of a young girl who was born and raised here, and always thinking about the terciopelo around the corner as she was crawling towards the forest edge. And then I think there's a whole kind of category of challenges that speak to, I think, the overall theme of this interview, which is, I guess I'll call it living on the fringe, living this alternative lifestyle that I've embraced and that these guys are embracing, starting that process of embracing. Living on the fringe, as exciting as it is, comes with a lot of associated challenges that when you really have to face them close up, can be scary. As we sit in front of this beautiful building made with earthen walls, what it takes to build something like this, kind of, I don't know if I should say this on film, but under the radar, because a lot of what we're doing might not be seen by everybody as the best way, or might I even venture to say the legal way. Most of our human waste is processed in a series of composting toilets, which is something that I'm personally very proud of. We ecologically and responsibly manage all of the human waste at this site, and there are sometimes up to 50 people here, and we're doing that all in a way that doesn't pollute the water, contaminate the resources, the natural resources around us. The composting toilets, seen by many, are not the right way. We can't do that legally here, but we have moved forward with that anyway, because we're convinced that it's the best way for us, and we've proven, I think, that you can do it in a way that can be ecologically sensitive while not being stinky and smelly. And that's just kind of the beginning of that, I guess, that living on the fringe conversation. That's much bigger than I can encompass here in a short period of time, but it's exciting to live on the fringe, but it's also scary when the herd, the mass of society is in this corridor in the middle, and you're moving out to the fringe for reasons that we're talking about here, because you might not necessarily agree with what's going on there, or the environmental impact that our society in general has on the environment, or a whole host of other reasons. But when you move to that fringe, all of a sudden your support systems change, and everything gets a little bit grayer, and that can be scary and difficult, and having to navigate legal systems, financial systems, governmental agencies. As a dirty hippie, can be difficult, can be hard. Many other challenges, but I'll leave it at that for now.
I guess, I feel like I spent years, just with this feeling of, I don't know, or ignoring this, like, I don't want to say like deep knowing, but I guess like intuition about that I just wasn't doing what I felt like I should be doing. And so I guess the advice I might give to my past self is just like, don't ignore that stuff.
Just in general, tell my past self just to not be so hard on yourself, buddy. Like, I think that just in general, that has been a theme of learning of my adult life. Just doing a little bit where you can, where you're at now is worth it and is good, and things build over time, and action begets action. And it's okay to just take one step at a time and doing the things that make you feel good, really good, not just like chocolate or drugs, the temporary, shallow good, but that your heart knows are good for you is a good thing. And it can be a big, dramatic life change that you decide to make happen, or it can be a very small decision every day. So I think that, not to lose, belief in like the small things that you can do for yourself and for other people.
I think too, I can add that when Rowan and I started the ranch, I think we both came here pretty idealistic. Like, we wanted to do everything the right way, environmentally, socially. We didn't want to make any compromises, use any cement in our foundations, poop in the drinking water. And it might have been helpful to know back then that compromises are part of this lifestyle and the process to become a better person, the process to develop a place that can work in today's world, that can function in today's economic paradigm, but still do good work. And I'm, I guess, more of a realist now. I still strive to do the best and be the best environmentalist that I can and make good choices for Mother Earth. But along that road, we have to sometimes make compromises that we might not be able to get 100% behind, but for one reason or another, legal, financial, social, that's just part of the process. What's important, I think, for us as an organization is just continuing to strive to do it better the next time and create a model that other people can get excited about and see that works, so that they can then go on and do good work as well. Because part of the reality of this alternative lifestyle or starting an alternative center like this is the understanding that the failure rate is really high. And so I think being realistic is overall probably helpful advice for anybody looking to start this, because it takes some compromises, it takes a lot of hard work, and you do have to kind of bend your comfort level once in a while so that you can, fit in and be viable. I think that a lot of people, I know this is advice to myself, perhaps this is going to come across as advice to other people, but I think people don't step off that precipice oftentimes because of the perceived sacrifices that they'll have to make. Not having access to Netflix or a high-speed internet connection, or being able to go to the mall. Are there still malls in existence? Still?
The last
going to New York City on a shopping spree, being able to go to the pub to have a beer with friends. Those are all, real big sacrifices in people's minds when they think about, how am I going to step off this precipice and start leading an alternative lifestyle, because I like a lot of the aspects of my life that I have now. And yes, I want to be more environmentally conscious, but I don't want to give all of this up. And I guess now, having gone through that process, or still in the midst of going through that process, now being able to look back and seeing what I do have, not materially speaking, but what I have in community and in food security, and the skills that I have acquired and developed to build and to grow and to live in harmony with other people, at least sometimes. Those are gifts that, I'm going to say it again, trump all of those all of those sacrifices that I just outlined that my prior lifestyle afforded me, those conveniences that Mateo was speaking to. My life is full, my heart is full. Doesn't mean that life here isn't challenging. It is, no matter where you are. But I think I can confidently say, much fuller, having taken that, road less traveled all those years back than if I had stayed on that road more traveled. It's impossible to say that or know that, but just based on what I see in society and how people are struggling and how many people are looking for examples like this to be inspired to be able to take that first step down the road less traveled. I really feel that, all of those sacrifices, real and perceived, are beyond worth it. And maybe that would have been good to know back then, because we did take that step, but it was very scary back then, and it would have been very easy not to have taken that first step. If I had known that there was glory at the end, that there was gold at the end of the rainbow, then perhaps that first step would have been a lot easier.